and welcome to Pioneer Forum 2021. I am Mahadevan, your host for this session, a session which is a panel discussion on outside in view of global opportunities for Indian digital businesses. What you all can expect here is 30 minutes of invigorating and riveting discussion with lots and lots of download if you are or if you're thinking of starting an e-commerce exports business and scale your business to global customers. I'm super excited to introduce you all to the panel of experts we have here for you all today. Leaders from Amazon Global Selling Program and Google Shopping. To my right on the screen is Anshuman, a seasoned business leader from Amazon and someone who's leading a pan-India team to enable thousands of sellers, manufacturers, and exporters to sell on global marketplaces of Amazon. To the left of my screen is Amit, who heads strategic partnerships at Google and is based out of the Bay Area in US. He leads Google's Vision Charter in terms of enabling sellers, establishing direct-to-consumer brands from the region. Gentlemen, thank you so much for taking out time and being here to share your views. We'll start this discussion with a quick round of introduction by Amit and Anshuman.
So I'm Amit, and I'm part of the business development team in strategic partnerships at Google Shopping, based in San Francisco Bay Area. And as part of this role, I enable sellers from across the world to join Google Shopping and be able to sell anywhere and connect with their users across the world.
Thanks, Madhavan, for the introduction. Hi, Amit. Thanks for having me here. So I'm with Amazon India Global Selling, helping Indian sellers have an outreach to our multiple marketplaces and millions of consumers outside India. Looking forward to this discussion.
Thank you, Amit and Anshuman, for a quick round of introduction. We all are looking forward to a lot of pearls of wisdom from both of you. So without much ado, we'll get into the discussion. My first question is to Amit, and this question is on changing customer preferences. Amit, the customer has changed a lot post-COVID. What are some of the trends that you have observed shaping the new post-COVID consumer?
Thank you for asking this question, Maddie. Actually, this is a very interesting question, and many of the changes we ourselves have witnessed as a consumer in COVID. So like in India, even in the US and many parts of the world, during COVID, the retailers had to close down. The stores had to close down. People had stopped visiting out. So immediate option that came in front of them was, how can I still get access to the things that I was buying, like grocery, my household essentials, if I have to buy clothing, or because we were working from home, the work from home equipment, my laptop desk, accessories, mic, etc. How do I buy it online? And they found that the retail stores were largely closed, or there was a stock out on the inventory. In many places, marketplaces had not stocked enough, thinking about this. So what really changed, I would say the e-commerce, which used to be very much focused on, buying from a few marketplaces or online retailers, became very much broad-based. People started to search. We started to see a spike in Google searches about these products, and consumers have started to interact with a broad base of sellers across a broad base of categories. So what you saw, and if you have followed any earnings calls, you saw most of the e-commerce places which are public reporting 60 to 100% gains in their sales. And this is not a small, this is for e-commerce. Another interesting trend that you saw is consumers were buying from the retailers or the brands that they loved online. So it took these guys a little bit of a time to get their online offering in place, something like you buy online, pick it on the curbside, or we'll deliver it to you using a delivery service that came up in this period of time. But then consumers flocked to these destinations. Like examples I talk about are Best Buy, Target. They were quick enough to put their online offering immediately so that people could still have access to products. And Best Buy saw more than 200% growth in their e-commerce last year. So to your question about how consumer preferences have changed, consumers have embraced online in many forms of their life. They're touching it everywhere. So we are talking about e-commerce. Then we saw a trend in food delivery. Then we saw a trend in, taking their classes online, not just the school classes, but in the tuitions that they were doing. For example, if you are taking a math class or you are taking a piano class, you ask your instructors, hey, do you offer a Zoom class? Can we do something on Zoom? So in general, online was embraced across the board, and people have become way more comfortable interacting, transacting in the online world. And that is the change I would say we saw as a 2020 across the board in consumer preferences, which to me is massive, because online world struggled from the trust deficit for a very long time. So few players who were able to brokerage the trust were successful. Now everybody is. People are more relaxed. People understand that you will not go bust if you buy online.
Amit, that was really insightful. You clearly expanded the scope of my question right from the word go. Thank you for that. And across the segments, two common themes that I could sense was availability and convenience. And on that note, let's move to Anshuman on this one, and to get a little more dope on the fact that how are these changing trends and customer behaviors that Amazon has seen would see as run up to 2022.
Right. It's a very interesting point, Madhavan. If you see overall, I think there is a huge acceleration in consumer demand, right? And it's led to a huge increase in traffic, which meant two things, right? Like we are getting new consumers who are embracing online and e-commerce, and then existing consumers are shopping more and more. Consumers are more decisive when they are shopping online now. There's a much higher intent. So that's the second consumer behavior that we are seeing. And consumers are now shopping across categories. So if we think of ourselves also as consumers, we would be more amenable to a certain cohort of categories. That's becoming more broad-based, more wide year on year. Having said that, what we always believe in Amazon, while these preferences change, what matters at the end of the day is three things: selection, price, and convenience. As long as we are able to offer incremental selection at sharper prices with the convenience of faster delivery, these consumer preferences will keep on evolving to get these three larger needs sorted.
Super insights from an Amazonian on this one, Anshuman, and totally agree. And that's what has been the news across in terms of e-commerce companies and exporters adding newer customers segments into their umbrella, and having customer segments who are pretty much open to go across category, which was not the case before. But on this very interesting topic, Anshuman, let me stick with you for the next question. And this is on the seller and the merchant size trends. How have sellers and merchants adapted themselves and their businesses to this new normal? What are the opportunities available for Indian exporters to grow their businesses?
Right. I'll answer it in two parts. First, I'll talk about what's the change in the seller ecosystem and how they're adapting themselves. So on this one, we have seen a huge acceleration, new sellers exploring e-commerce and global selling for us. Second, there is a parallelization of approach wherein earlier the seller ecosystem was thinking local first and global second. A lot of the sellers are moving in parallel of thinking local and global together. And they've started building their online channels in parallel to the domestic markets they used to focus on for exports and incremental. So that's the second change. The third, it's giving an opportunity for merchants and sellers to diversify sales all year round. So the earlier opportunities were limited to the domestic markets and the festive and the sales season there. Suddenly it's about sales all year around. So I think that's the third big change. And the fourth thing is they've started to adapt to newer fulfillment modes. So largely we offer two fulfillment modes to our sellers. One is fulfillment by Amazon, which is you can move your goods to a destination market. Take you as an example. That gives you an opportunity of faster access to prime consumers, which is 1 or 2 days shipping. And the second is a direct shipping or merchant fulfillment network, as we call. So both are there. So what we've seen is an acceleration of adoption of fulfillment channels by our merchants. That's very evident. And coming to the second part of the question, are there new markets or opportunities available for sellers? The answer is yes. If you look at the Amazon Global Selling Program, we give access to more than 200 countries to our sellers. And if you talk about the marketplace, we have 18 marketplaces across North America, Europe, MENA. So those are there. And then we have started offering incremental markets to Indian merchants. Think of Japan and Australia also now. So in totality, it's a huge opportunity from a destination market perspective, and it's a huge multiplier in terms of the consumer base sellers are selling into. So those opportunities are multiplied. And the third point here is India is possibly one of the third largest startup ecosystem in the world. We also launched a Propel program a few months back, which giving an opportunity to these new age startup sellers, these brands, to also explore global opportunities in parallel.
Thank you, Anshuman. So clear takeaway for me and all our attendees over here, both existing and aspiring online exporters, is that not to think of local and global as sequence, but think of it together and see Amazon and Google playing its respective roles in enabling that journey. Taking a short segue from this, Amit, and my question is on the new buzzword, D2C, direct to consumers. India has seen an explosive growth of D2C brands across various categories, from food to fashion, in the last few quarters, couple of years. How is Google catalyzing these trends?
That's an interesting question. So yes, not just India, we are seeing a very large emergence of D2C brands. And I would say this is helped by, I would say earlier marketplaces who became home, and the sellers who grew out there kind of are turning to, launching their own brands online. And then store builders like Shopify, WooCommerce, or BigCommerce of the world, which have made it super easy for sellers to create an e-commerce ready website and get into the business, launch a product. So what sellers these days have to focus on is building a great product. As long as they are building a great product, there are players into the ecosystem making sure that you are able to get that product to the consumer and have it delivered. As Anshuman talked about, expansion of fulfillment services, more players coming in. And like many others, as Google, the way we are playing a role is we have 7 properties who have 1 billion plus user engagement across each. And our users are continuously searching for more and more products in their early upper funnel journey. So when they are looking at experiencing, so they are kind of engaging with the brands and influencers on YouTube. They are searching for imagery like what do I wear, or ideas for home on the Google image search. Then they are using Google search and other properties to identify the products or that they want to transact. So we are playing a great role in that discovery journey. And you might have noticed the changes that we made last year is, first of all, we made it free for any seller, a D2C brand or a marketplace or a retailer, to bring their products to our consumers and list them for free. We have enabled programs which allow them to sell globally. So we are also the same boat, that if you're a D2C brand, let's say originated in India or Mexico, and your products have a global appeal, then why think local? You can just list your products across the globe with the help of Google and have it discovered. So we are continuously making our systems easier for D2C brands to come and join Google to an extent of a single click. Like if, for example, we launch a single click experience with Shopify. If you are a Shopify seller, with a click of a single button in Shopify interface, you can have your brand represented across Google, your products going across. Then we launched global offers where you could, when you're kind of selecting your listings, you could choose the number of countries where you want to list it, and then products become immediately available. This is not it. We are continuously working towards it. So a property, YouTube, which is very popular across many countries, we are working to bring the transactions or discovery of the products for these D2C brands on YouTube via influencers. So a lot of these D2C brands actually work with a lot of influencers who talk about their product passionately, give users inside views on how they engage with their product, what do they particularly like about it. And YouTube has become a very common channel, like many other social media platforms where the videos are. We are bringing an ability for these influencers and these brands to surface the products in context to the user and have them transact with this. So we are continuously working towards this trend, as you said, and making our properties more and more available. I would say making it free is the biggest move in the ecosystem, where seller has to pay literally nothing for getting their products discovered and having transacted. If they want the transaction on Google, great. If they want the transaction on their own website, we made it very, very simple for these brands to, as you come up and thrive.
Wow, Amit. Clearly shows and showcases Google's centricity, customer centricity, and working backwards and leveraging all the existing properties to empower the seller ecosystem, seller community, and expand globally. I'll just take one part from what you shared and go back to Anshuman. And Anshuman, how is Amazon Global Selling thinking on tapping on these trends? You briefly mentioned the Propel program. Can you share a little more? How do they help and how do they grow D2C brands? That may be a completely new segment for you, right?
And that's true. I think over the last few years, we have started seeing D2C brands coming in. And that pace has accelerated with the whole increase in online adoption, affinity to e-commerce and exports, etc. So I think when we saw that, we thought, why can't we create and curate a program which kind of serves the needs of these new age businesses? So what we started doing was we started providing more hand holding and more support to some of these new age brands because exports may not be an easy thing for somebody who's not doing it earlier. So we thought, how can we support them to talk about our fulfillment programs? How can we start helping them on their journey to become an established brand when selling to new consumers? So we started with that. If you would have read, I think we launched the winner of the Propel program. Also, we thought we can maybe provide them some funding if it helps unblock capital needs, etc. And then I think it's exports is a long journey. It's about how can we help finalize the right products they would want to sell to their customers. What's the right selection they can target, and how can they plan and then migrate from one destination to another, because then it's about having a multiplier impact in terms of increasing your consumer base. So I think for us, Propel is a way to serve these merchants, these sellers, so that they can bring their amazing products to the millions of customers we have in our destination markets. And I think we are just getting started there. Given all the excitement we have seen in the external market around the D2C space, I think it's a space wherein it's just day one for us for the Propel program.
Indeed, a very exciting space, Anshuman. And quite honestly, the published list of Propel winners, I ended up buying some products from them even before the list got published. It just clearly shows the value that they've added to the consumers within India and the potential that they have in terms of expanding their business and offering these products globally. Let me come back to Amit. And Amit, my question to you is on categories. Now, Google will be the starting point in terms of knowing the search trends across regions, across pin codes, vast possible detail that exists. How does Google use all this plethora of information that you have and empower and enable the seller communities in terms of being ready for these changing trends and identifying them early and being ready for the future? What are the things in place? What are the levers in place?
Got it. It's absolutely right. So we tend to see a lot of changes early on based on the user search behavior or the videos they are browsing or how they are interacting across other properties. So first of all, earlier before the pandemic, we used to specifically publish reports about the trends and the changes in the trends that we are seeing, like which categories would perform better, or if sellers kind of reached out to us or a community of sellers reached out to us. Like I work with Indian segment, so I kind of went out to them talking about handicraft, talking to them about home and furnishing as a kind of a growing category back in 2019, saying these are the trends. But what has happened in 2020, as Anshuman talked about, is the e-commerce has become broad-based. So now consumers are shopping with everything online. So, I mean, we have seen as I said before, across all facets, right? So if a product or a service that can be delivered online, consumers are purchasing it. Having said that, within that, we are publishing trends. We continuously take time to publish trends, write on our blogs, and our leaders come online. We talk about what are the new trends or captures we are seeing to bring it to our seller community. We have emailers that keep going out saying this items or that is going popular. So once a seller joins Google Shopping by opting in their feed and inventory and making them available to our products, they get ton of notifications, insights, reports, continuous from time to time on Merchant Center. What is trending, what is new, how can they, participate more in this journey. And not just this about the categories, we also tell these sellers specifically about themselves. Like, what is it that they could improve? Like, is it the pricing mismatch that's happening on their program, or users are looking for videos but they don't have videos or images, or some more details are needed about product. So we take all the cues that we have, and we are building for more for these sellers to easily access this information about where they should invest their resources, how should they do, and to be able to benefit from this trend. And I want to add one more point about these small sellers. To help these small sellers and D2C brands, we have launched specific filters on a shopping search. So if you search on shopping in US, you could actually select show me small businesses, and we are going to bring more and more like this. I mean, possibly I can imagine saying new emerging brands, a filter coming up. And we're also thinking about these D2C brands bring a lot of attributes like environmentally sustainable, locally sourced, or women owned. So we are surfacing those as well. So the trends are not only at the category level, I would say. The trends are also at the meta level. There are a lot of users in the US who want to shop from, let's say, women-owned business, or a veteran-owned business, or a Black-owned business, or they want to shop from products which can help a particular kind of an industry. We are also working and surfacing on those meta level trends, not just on the product. So in Google, we have the luxury of getting that view of how consumer preferences are changing, not just with the commerce, but broadly across. Right? Are people becoming more sustainability oriented, or they are looking for more furniture products, or fast fashion is becoming more of a trend? We have products, and we are building more and more in this particular direction to empower our ecosystem of sellers across the board.
I mean, this is amazing to hear how you and your team are clearly democratizing information and sharing the seller level and all these data to all the registered sellers on Google Shopping. And the second takeaway as a consumer is also a consumer being able to choose that he can purchase from a small and mid-size, or a typical background of a seller. This is really cool. These are really cool trends, and I'm sure all the attendees we have a lot of takeaways and interesting points from this download. Let me come back to Anshuman. Indian cross-border ecosystem is at its tipping point, Anshuman. What are the innovative programs you and your team are building up to enable more and more last mile Indian sellers, manufacturers, to make it an easy transition to be a cross-border exporter?
That's a good question, Madhavan. I think a lot of the investment that we're trying to do is for the long term, because the idea is how can we make the right investment that will support this current set of exporters and the next generation of exporters to scale across geographies. And our focus has been on broadly 3-4 areas. I think one obviously is fulfillment or logistics, because that's one of the barriers or challenges which sellers come across as they start thinking about exports, right? So one of the focus is how can we enable this in a one-click manner that enables sellers to think about fulfillment as if they were possibly serving the domestic market only. So I think there's a lot of investment going to make our fulfillment offerings very simple and integrated to the other services we are offering. So that's one large direction in which we are focusing on. I think the second big thing is, and I talked about the Propel program. So we continue to invest there through the Propel program to drive access of information to these new age startups, to the Amazon ecosystem about product market fit, advertising, etc. In the Propel program, we also have connects with Amazon leaders and potential investors, which gives access to these sellers so that they can kind of scale their businesses. So that's the other big thing that we're investing in from a program perspective. I think the third bit is we continue to now support our sellers, how they can diversify their business and reach millions of consumers across multiple destinations. And I talked about it earlier, like Global Selling Program has a reach across 200 plus countries. So we continue to work with our sellers so that from a program perspective, they can kind of diversify to multiple global destinations. Wherever we have a marketplace, think of North America, Europe, and I talked about a bunch of other places earlier. So I think that's the third program or investment that we're offering our sellers. And I think it's an exciting time. Uh, the last few years have been both exciting and crazy because of COVID. But I think there is a lot of headroom and opportunity when we talk about this space for our sellers in India.
Anshuman, it's amazing to hear how Amazon is thinking of simplifying a complex process of exports into simple steps and programmatically solving smaller parts so that the entire process is so easy. A lot of takeaways for me and all the attendees for sure. I'm coming back to Amit, and this is for my last question to you, Amit. And this is more on an informal note. Let's say I get, or any of our seller communities, merchant communities who are attending this session today, get a chance to attend one of your board meetings. What is that one secret sauce for an online D2C merchant to grow disproportionately in such exciting times?
This is a great question. So I would talk about two things. What is it that they can do and what is it that we are doing? Because you talk about our board meeting. So in our meetings, a constant discussion, and it's our number one agenda, is how are we making small scale sellers or D2C brands who are new and not getting surface successful? How do we surface them more and more in front of consumers so that their products get discovered? I think from our perspective, we think their product discoverability is a challenge. So our number one priority and what kind of keeps it awake all the time is how are we making sure that these sellers are finding success on Google, getting discovered, finding their fair share. And this is our number one agenda. And what I'll say to the seller community is while we are working hard and burning our midnight oil to make this happen and get you stand up against everyone, one thing you could do, your secret sauce is make sure that user trust is kept kept to the best interest. Users will once you're discovered, users will transact and they will come back again and again if they are able to establish a trust with you. And that trust happens by giving them a great delivery experience, giving them a great after sales experience if they face an issue with the product, making sure that the customers feel that they are in the right hands and they are not cheated or they should not have shopped. So the more you do it, you will convert more of the customers that you are acquiring through us into the repeat purchases. So a secret sauce, I would say, is make sure that the customer experience is the best that you could deliver.
Secret sauce shared indeed, Amit. Thank you so much. Anshuman, similar question. We all know that a common practice in Amazon is to keep an empty chair in meeting rooms, and that empty chair representing customers or your sellers. And if any of our attendees over here happen to get into that empty chair in a meeting that you are taking with your team, what is it that they'll come to know in terms of establishing a very large, very impactful seller business with Amazon?
Right. I think 2-3 things. One is what we know for sure, and this is what we have been talking about for the last couple of decades, is consumers want more selection at lower prices, at the best possible convenience, which is 1 or 2 day delivery. And that continues to stay always, right? So from a seller's perspective, like if you believe how you want to improvise, grow your business, how can we solve these things and continue to solve this? That will matter again and again in the long term. The second is, I think our markets are much closer right now than where they were. So it's much easier to kind of take your products global versus where it was a decade back. So I think the opportunity, there's a huge opportunity in terms of accessing new markets, accessing new customers, and any business right now, be it a manufacturer, a trader, or a new age startup, I think it's about seizing that opportunity right now. And the third thing is, I think we at Amazon are super excited about this space of cross-border exports, and that comes across in all the conversation we have. We truly believe we are just getting started, and there is a huge opportunity for Indian sellers, manufacturers, artisans, all category of sellers to kind of take their wares, take their products directly to consumers and build your own brands also for the long term. So it's a super exciting space.
Thank you, Amit. Thank you, Anshuman, for all the insights. It's really great to see and great to learn the building blocks that Amazon and Google are setting up to scale up the online export space from India and let simple exporters from any nook and corner of the country expand their business to global customers. I'm sure it has added a lot of value to all our existing and aspiring online exporters from India. Thank you, gentlemen. Good day.